artist. I hope everybody's having an awesome Thursday. You don't even know how excited I am about today, because today's science experiment might be one of my favorites. So if you don't have the supplies to join in, don't worry, you can always get the supplies later and join the fun. Maybe today you just want to watch the experiment and see what happens. But as usual, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go ahead and go through our catchphrase. I make messes. I make mistakes. But deep inside, I got what it takes. I am an artist. Awesome, guys. Today, I'm going to be using markers that are made by Prang. Prang is one of the people or companies that Dixon Ticonderoga owns. And you hear me talk about them all the time because Dixon Ticonderoga sponsors these art classes that we have. They give me the supplies that I'm using. So a big shout out and a thank you to them and their amazing Prang markers, which are also going to be really cool today when we make our artwork. They're going to do a little bit of science with our markers today too. All right, guys, before we get rolling, let's go ahead and go through the supplies that you will need. Here's the supplies you'll need for the science experiment. Really, there's only 3 main supplies that you'll need. And then there's a couple additional things that if you happen to have them, great. If you don't, no big deal. For this science experiment, you must have vinegar, you must have dish soap, and you must have baking soda, not to be confused with baking powder. So those 3 things are what you'll need. If you don't have them, then you can just watch. I did say you could have 2 extra supplies. The 2 extra supplies could be food coloring and glitter. You'll also want to have a tray, like a cookie sheet, to do your science experiment in to help keep the mess. And you'll also need a little cup or a jar or some sort of container that we will be doing the science experiment in. Those are your science experiment supplies. As far as art supplies goes, we're keeping it real basic. You'll need paper, markers, and the 3 primary colors, most importantly, which are red, yellow, and blue, a little cup of water and a paintbrush, scissors, and toilet paper tubes if you have them, and glue. An extra thing that if you happen to have, which would be great, would be pipe cleaners. All right, guys, let's go through our elements of art, because now we've been making art for so long, you've probably started to realize that we use every single one of those elements of art every time we make a work of art. They are vital to art making. All right, so here we go. Line, shape, color, baby, color, form, value, texture, and space. Very good. And today our words for the day, we're using 2 words. Our words for the day are chemical reaction. Whoop, whoop. If I say chemical reaction, you say chemical reaction, you already know what to do. But what's a chemical reaction? It's when 2 things or 2 chemicals come together and they react. Something happens. We're going to see that twice today. We're going to see it both in our artwork and in our science experiment. Okay, pinkies up. Let's get ready for our pinky promise. Remember, when I clear my throat, you repeat after me. I pinky promise to do my very best, to finish what I start, to not give up, to have a positive attitude. Mwah. All right, guys, let's get started. All right, guys, in case I missed anything, because there's actually quite a few art supplies that we could be using today, I thought I would lay it all out so that you could see. If there's anything that I have that you don't have, it's okay. You can make artwork with whatever you happen to have on hand. You'll definitely need some paper. You might want to draw with a pencil in case you draw something that you don't like, and some markers, and I will be using the primary colors of markers today. All right, so today we're making our very own little science lab. So we are pretty much experts at drawing beakers. We drew beakers yesterday for our artwork that transformed. So we don't have to do a lot of time just sitting and talking and practicing these. I'm gonna go a tiny bit faster today when we draw. So you'll be drawing 3 different beakers. And if you look at these beakers, I want you to check out the color inside of each beaker bottle. I've got a lot of beautiful purples in this one, a lot of really gorgeous oranges in that one, and some beautiful greens in this one. Purple, orange, and green, those are the secondary colors. I made those colors today. That's right, I didn't have these colors. I made these colors with the primary colors. By using markers and water, there was a chemical reaction that allowed the marker colors to bleed and spread out and transform into these secondary colors. So I'm gonna move these out of the way. And the cool thing about these beakers is when you're finished, we're gonna glue them to the back of some toilet paper tubes because they can stand up on their own. That's right, you'll have built your very own science lab. All right, I'm gonna scoot these out of the way. I've got big paper today because I like to draw big so that you can see. You'll be drawing 3 beakers today. You can draw them any size you want to, but you might not want to draw them too small if you plan on gluing them to a toilet paper tube, right? Because if they're too small, then we'll be able to see the toilet paper tube behind it. So I think I'll take 1 piece of paper. I'm going to actually take these 2, move this out of the way, and I think what I'm going to do is take a piece of paper like this one and fold it in half. Folding 1 piece of paper in half, and then I'm going to unfold this piece of paper, and what this does is it gives me 2 parts to my paper. I'll be drawing 2 beakers, 1 beaker that will fill this side, 1 beaker that will fill that side, and with my extra piece, maybe I'll make 1 large beaker. So I'm going to start with my large one first. That way you can see. I like to draw with a marker so you can see a little bit easier too, but you might want to draw with a pencil. I will let you decide. All right, guys, I'm going to start at the top of my paper and I'm going to create the opening of that beaker. If you remember, it's called the mouth. So I'm going to start with an oval like this. It's going to stretch from one side of the paper to the other, kind of like an arched line, but not with too much of an arch. And then I'm going to bring this part down, creating that oval. There we go. Now I want to show that there's an inside to the beaker. So to do that, I'm going to draw another oval inside, which creates the opening of my beaker. Now I need to decide how long is the neck of my beaker going to be, and I'll be using vertical lines that are running parallel, meaning they're doing the same thing from the mouth down. So you might want to even use your fingers to see how long do you want that neck to be. That would be a really long neck and then a shorter body. It's up to you. You are the artist. You could do a short neck and a really big body on your beaker. So if you take both of your fingers, and the reason I'm using 2 fingers that are doing the exact same thing, it's because my beaker is symmetrical. It's the same on one side as it is on the other. All right, I think I'm gonna have 2 vertical lines that come down like this, 1 that comes down like that, trying to make them the same. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now I need to decide, do I want to use diagonal lines or a curved line for the body of my beaker? I think I'm going to do a big curve that kind of ends like that. All right, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Curve. I'm going to try to make them look symmetrical or the same on both sides. Notice I didn't go to the bottom of my paper. I'm going to go ahead and draw a curved line at the bottom. That'll help create the illusion of depth. I'm trying to make my bottle not look flat, but be a form. Remember, a form is fat. Now, if this is a beaker, usually beakers have little lines on them to show where you are measuring things. You could just draw them here. You could continue those lines down your beaker. It is up to you. If you wanted to number those lines, you could do that too. I'm gonna leave mine just like this. What I'm going to do next is decide where do I want the liquid in my beaker to be. I could have it be filled up all the way to here, copying the same kind of line that I made there. I could have it be about half full, right, maybe here. I don't know, I think I kind of like that idea. So I'm gonna make a curved line that matches the bottom of my beaker. And now I'm gonna make a curved line that goes back. Okay, now it looks like I have a beaker. It's filled with the liquid. To show that it's glass and maybe a little bit reflective, I can draw a couple of these short dashed lines around the side and the bottom to show that it's got a little bit of a shine to it. Okay, one beaker down, 2 more to go. So I'm gonna move this one out of the way. Let's try drawing 2 here. Same thing, find the middle, create an oval, place another oval inside. Now I know I'm going a little fast, but if you followed along yesterday, then you already know how to draw a beaker. Or you could simply hit the pause button. So if I'm going a little bit too fast, then you can always hit the pause button and catch up. Your beakers do not have to look like mine. You could make yours totally different. I'm making these 2 totally different. I think I'll make this one with a nice big curved line that comes all the way in. I'm trying to go for some variety, so I'm making sure that they don't look the same. I'll add that curve at the bottom. Let's see, on this one, maybe I'll do a diagonal line and a diagonal line and a curve. All right, do you remember the steps from this one? Well, we used lines to show that it was a beaker. We showed those measurement lines, and notice that I'm making a pattern of a short line, long line, short line, long line, short line, long line, short line, long line. Or on this one, maybe I don't have a measurement, or maybe they're just on the body of the beaker. You are the Zany scientist artist. You get to decide. Speaking of deciding, I think I'll fill this one up all the way to there with liquid. Maybe this one's almost empty, so it's gonna be right down there. All right, and then give it a little bit of a shine. All right, guys, now let's focus on the science portion of this art making experience. I'm going to be creating the secondary colors, orange, green, purple, with just these colors, the primary colors, yellow, red, and blue. So for each of my 3 bottles, I'm going to pick 2 of the primary colors and fill in the liquid portion of my bottle. So let me think. I think I'll start with yellow, and I'm just going to color some shapes, maybe some spirals, some squiggles. I'm not coloring the whole thing. I'm just putting, I'll call them bubbles. I'm just putting some bubbles and filling in the space. And notice that the circles I'm making, they're not little circles, they're pretty big. I'm trying to fill up a good portion of my bottle with yellow. The color yellow is not only a primary color, but it's a light color. It's a light in value. So since it's light in value, I'm going to be using a lot of it because the color red is darker in value. Since it's darker in value, I'm going to use smaller polka dots of red. Smaller polka dots of red, big polka dots of yellow. I accidentally got a little bit ahead of myself. I forgot to make my bottles look as though they have form. So I'm gonna push the pause button before I do my experiment, and I'm going to use a black crayon, You could use a pencil, and I'm going to take this bottle or beaker from being flat, give it form, make it fat. So to do that, I'm going to press with a nice hard value around the sides, this side. Remember, I always love to rotate my paper because it's more comfortable for my coloring or shading hand. All right, now that I have a nice dark value around the sides, I'm going to go lighter towards the center. So I'm not putting as much pressure now. I'm going lighter and lighter until I'm just like tickling the paper. Oh, that tickles, Miss Stevens. I'm sorry, paper. All right, I'm gonna go nice and hard around these edges and then create a lighter value. Notice how my hand is following the shape of the bottle. That way, it continues to have the same form. I'll rotate my paper and I'm pressing with a medium amount of pressure to create a medium value, getting lighter and lighter and lighter. All right, now I've got this really dark area here, going a little lighter and lighter. Now I'm ready to add my water to see what this reaction is like. I'm just gonna add a couple more dots. There we go. So it didn't really matter that I colored it first. Now I'm gonna add some water. And because my markers are what's called water-based, they're made with water, they tend to spread out or bleed when water touches them. And already I'm starting to see the secondary color of orange. Now, if you do this trick and you don't see your secondary color right away, that's because sometimes the reaction takes a little bit longer. You need to let the water kind of do its trick with the paint, or I'm sorry, with the marker, wake up the marker and turn it into a kind of paint. Look, you can already see the red is starting to mix and move over to the yellow to create an orange. All right, I definitely need to let this dry, let that chemical reaction start to happen, and I'll move on to my next one. Look, I'm even kind of swirling that red around a little bit, which is also helping it. There we go. Maybe I'll do that a little bit longer because now I'm really starting to see that orange color show up. Okay, move this one out of the way, and I'm going to do something similar to my other two bottles. All right, guys, to begin, I'm just taking my black crayon and doing a nice dark value around the edge, and then again, just going lighter as I get toward the middle. This will help make it look as though my beaker has form. It's not flat. It's fat, it's popping out of space. I'll do that to both, and when I do that, I follow the curve of whatever shape it is I'm coloring. So this beaker is round, so I'm making a round curved line, and then just applying lighter and lighter pressure as I get closer toward the middle. Now I've still got my three primary colors out, ready to do my experiment. And this one I think I'll try, let's see, maybe green. Once again, blue is a dark value, yellow is a light value. So that's why I used larger swatches of yellow and smaller ones of blue. For this one, I'm going to make purple, and red and blue are about the same value. So I'm making circles that are about the same size. Just add water, and what I learned was that it helps to keep moving the brush around a little bit. It helps to not only turn the marker into paint, but it also allows the marker to mix a little bit more. Now your paper is going to be pretty wet, but once it's dried, then you can cut your beakers out. Just a reminder, when you're cutting, cut with slow, safe scissors. I like to sometimes cut a big shape around whatever it is I'm cutting and then go ahead and get a little closer and cut more carefully. Notice how my left hand, my hand that does not control the scissors, it does all the work. It's having to rotate and turn those beakers for me, while my scissors are always facing outward, away from me. They're never pointed towards me. Now that my beakers are all cut out, I can make them stand up with the toilet paper tube. I just put a good amount of glue on one side of the tube and added my beaker, and look at that. It stands! How cool is that? The trick is to make sure that the bottom of the tube matches the bottom of your paper. That way, when it stands on a table, it looks as though it's actually just sitting on the table. Pretty nifty. Now, if you have some pipe cleaners, you can bend them and attach them to the back of your beaker with some tape. Just like that. And then the next thing you know, you have your very own laboratory. I could not stop making beakers. Look at all of the ones that I've made to create my own little lab. Now let's do science. All right, guys, are you ready for today's science experiment? Here's what you're going to need. You'll need a cookie sheet to help us contain or capture some of the mess. And then you'll need a small container, maybe a little jar, a little bowl, or a dish like I've got. You're going to need vinegar. I know you probably thought this was water, but if you could smell it, woo-hoo-hoo, it smells like, you'll probably recognize it when you dye Easter eggs. That's vinegar. I'm also using some dish soap, doesn't matter what kind, and baking soda. You'll also notice that I've got food coloring if you happen to have some. This is just extra, you don't necessarily need it. And glitter. Those two things are just fun extras. Okay, to do your magic potion science experiment, the first thing you'll do is fill your little container about half full with vinegar. So just half full. I'm trying to conserve or save my supplies, so that's why my container is nice and small. The next thing I'm going to add is a good amount of dish soap, but before I do that, I'm gonna add my food coloring. Now, if you don't have it, it's okay. Go ahead and add dish soap. I'm gonna give food coloring a go, just squirting in a couple of drops. There we go, not too much, I'll save some of that. And now I'm going to squeeze in some dish soap. There we go. Ooh, it's looking really cool so far, how the colors are kind of moving and spreading around. Now, if you happen to have a little bit of glitter, you might want to add that too. It's a magical potion, right? It could use a little glitter. And then last but not least, I'm going to add my baking soda. So I'm going to sprinkle in my baking soda. And would you look at that? The baking soda is causing a chemical reaction. It's turning my vinegar, my dish soap into a magic potion. Do you see how it's kind of growing? And it's so sparkly and beautiful. I wonder what would happen if I tried the same ingredients again. All right, so look at it. Oh, it's so cool to just sit and watch it moving and kind of growing. I'm gonna try a little bit more vinegar. And then I'll try a different color. Why not? I'm experimenting. It's getting bigger. Add a couple of more drops of a different color. Then I don't think I need any more glitter, but I'll go ahead and add some more baking soda and just see what happens. Oh, it looks like a blueberry muffin. Trust me, it doesn't smell like it, but look how it's growing. Maybe I need to come up with some sort of magical potion saying, abracadabra, stinky vinegar shazam. Oh, I could sit and look at these colors all day. It reminds me of a galaxy. If you do this, it might be great for you to do it outside because it's pretty messy. Also, keep in mind, doing it inside of a container would be really awesome. Oh my goodness, I can't stop adding more vinegar and baking soda. And the reason this is happening is because there's a chemical reaction between the vinegar and the baking soda. When they combine and come together, the reaction process, it slows down. And that's why this foam starts to kind of grow and move very slowly. Oh, look at that beautiful design in my tray. I hope you have fun making your magical potion today. Well, would you look at this mess I've made? But you know what I was thinking? What if I tried pulling a print like we have been doing in a lot of experiments from some of these beautiful colors just sitting here? What if I take my piece of paper, lay it on my tray, have my fingers do a little tap dance and pull this up and see what kind of cool design I can capture? Look at that. It already looks a lot like a galaxy, especially with that glitter in there. I can add these cool papers to my collage stash. I could make things with them. So instead of just like dumping out this, if I even tilt it a little bit and watch the colors move and run, I can actually do something with these papers. So you know what? I was almost thinking I was finished with my experiment. Then I realized I have another opportunity or a chance to make more art. That's the thing with art. You always have to look for those opportunities or chances to create. Oh, that's cool with all those polka dots right there. So try printing with some scrap paper. I'm using the backs of old sheets of paper, and pick up some of those really beautiful colors and prints from your big old science experiments mess that you've made. All right, guys, thanks again for joining today for Zany Scientist. If you want more Zany Scientist videos, they're right here on my YouTube channel, as well as videos from last week's Robot Week. If you want to stay up to date on all the videos that I share here, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks, guys.